first grade friends. It's Mrs. Kronheiser here, and I am going to teach you a really quick lesson on halves and what is a half and how do we show what a half is. We hear it all the time. Hey, give me half of your candy bar. Hey, can I have half of that? And now I'm going to tell you exactly what that means. So I have the definition up here. We're going to read it now. It says, a whole that is separated into two equal parts is separated into halves. Now, you learned that a whole is when something is completely one. It is not divided, it is not separated, it is not cut. It is the one whole thing. So a half is when that is just separated into two. Now, I underline this because it's super, super important. That's equal parts. So I have these three examples right here. These would not be considered halves because this part and this part is not equal. So when we look at this, yes, it is separated into two parts, but it needs to be two equal parts. So this is not split into half. These two parts are not equal, so they are not split into half. These two parts are not equal, so they are not split in half. So none of these three examples are separated into halves because those parts are not equal. But let's look at these three examples here. I'm going to get my green marker out because green means go. All right, if you look at them, this is the whole, this whole square, this whole circle, this whole rectangle. And as you can see here, it is separated into two. 1, 2. That's two equal parts. This shape is split into half. 1, 2 parts of the whole, that's in half. Let's check out this one. Split. 1, 2, those parts are equal. 2 equal parts. That circle is in half. Got this whole rectangle separated 1, 2. 2 equal parts. So that shows you what a half looks like. Now, I've got down on the bottom here 3 whole shapes. We have one whole square, one whole circle, and one whole rectangle. I'm going to give you a couple seconds right now, and I want you to think, how would you separate this into half? You can do it many ways. You can hover your finger over your screen. You can just think about it, or you can just wait until I draw it. But I want you to be thinking, given the examples where these are split into half because they are two equal parts, how would you split these up or separate them, whatever word you want to use? Let's do the square first. Now, if you thought of this, you're absolutely right. That is that whole separated into two equal parts. One part, two part. Exactly. Let's look at the circle. How about that? One part, two part. Look at this rectangle. One part, two part. So just like these ones up here, these holes are now split into two equal parts. You could also, since a square is the same length of sides all around, this also would work. And since a circle is also equal on all sides, this would work. And actually, a rectangle could very well be a half if separated like that. The only reason why these were not correct is because the halves were not equal, and it has to be equal parts. So I'm going to pause the video real quick and erase this part because I want to show you how that means that now that we know that wholes can be separated into two equal parts, what does it mean to be 1/2? Because this is 1/2 and this is 1/2. But I'm going to show you how we build that fraction. I'm going to erase my board. Okay, the first thing we have to do is let's check back in that definition again. A whole that is separated into two equal parts is separated into halves. So now that we learned that from the last part, we need to see what happens when those two halves become 1/2 and how we build what is called that fraction. So I've got our wholes here. I have a whole square, a whole circle, and a whole rectangle. The first thing we have to do is we have to separate these wholes into how many equal parts? 2 equal parts, exactly. So I'm going to use green on the first square. How are we going to separate this into 2 equal parts? Don't want it here. Don't want it here. Those would not be equal. I'm going to try to get it as best as you can, and even Mr. Kronheiser's not perfect, but I'm trying my best. Boom, right there. That's an equal part. That's an equal part. Now, what this means is that make this read 1/2, we need to shade in one of those parts. So you can pick whatever part. You can pick this one or this one. I'm just going to go for this one. And of course, I'm not going to shade as neat as you could with a pencil because I don't want to waste marker ink. But now check out what this means. What this means is we shaded in one of the, how many equal parts did we start off with? 2. We shaded one of the 2 equal parts. If you stack those on top of each other, one part is shaded out of the 2 original parts. That is 1/2. 1/2 is now shaded. Let's try with the circle. I'll show you exact same way. I'm going to get a different color for you. Here's the circle. That's the whole though. And we need it to be separated into 1/2. So first thing we have to do is we have to separate it into halves. And if you think back to your definition, a half is 2 equal parts. Gotta separate this into 2 equal parts. Well, I definitely don't want to go diagonal. I think I'm gonna go like that. One part, one part. And I'm sorry if I cut in and out. I know my microphone's right here, but I also want you to be able to see. So, okay, that's 1/2, that's another half, but how are we gonna show that we want 1/2 of this whole? Well, just as we did on the square, we're gonna pick one of the halves. I'm gonna pick this one. Again, not shading the neatest to save marker ink. Okay, now let's look what we have. We have 1 shaded out of, how many were there in the start? 2. 1 of 2 equal parts, 1/2. So this bottom number tells you how many there were to start off with. There was 2. This number tells you how much is shaded or taken away. So let's move on to the rectangle. I'm going to do a bit more pausing because I really want you to think. We have the rectangle. What is the first thing we need to do. If someone said, and when I say someone, maybe like in your future grades, second or third, if it shows you a rectangle and it says, separate this and show 1/2. Oh, that's a lot of directions, but you can remember back and think, okay, I first have to show what does 1/2 look like. So going by Mrs. Kronheiser's 2 examples was the first thing you have to do to show that a whole is going to be shaded into 1/2. Well, of course, you have to separate the whole into halves. And how do we do that? 2 equal parts. Okay, you're almost there. And even if I look at it, I mean, that's the beauty of pencil. I'm kind of thinking, I don't know if those were super equal. Let's move it there. Okay, I like that a little bit better. Okay. All right, I'm almost there. I've got my whole now separated into 2 equal parts, but the directions said they want to see 1/2. Well, pick one of those halves, shade it nice and neater than Mrs. Kronheiser, of course. Okay, look at that. Now you have one of 2 equal parts. You have 1/2. Now, I'm going to give a couple more examples. Let me just erase the board once more. Okay, for our last bit of lesson for our halves today, I have some problem solving questions that I'm getting right out of the My Math book on page 690. So I'm just going right over those. I didn't take the time to write them all because I wanted to save board space. So I'm going to read them very loud and clear, and I'm going to show you how you solve them. So number 13 says, Joey has a hot dog. He cuts it in half. How many equal parts is the hot dog cut into? Well, I know hot dogs aren't complete rectangles, but to help visualize, I drew a rectangle. Now, the problem says he cuts it in half. Well, we learned how to cut things in half. So I'm going to take my blue marker and cut it in half. See, this is why fractions are real world. Just like I said in the beginning, this could very well happen to you at any time. There's one hot dog left. Your sister wants a half. Your brother wants a half. Your mom wants half. Needs to be cut in half. But the question asks, how many equal parts is the hot dog cut into? Well, if you cut it in half and you remember the definition, how many equal parts is in a half? 1 part, 2 part. The answer is 2 equal parts. Next one was number 14. Tina draws this square. Help Tina by drawing a line to show 2 equal parts. So if Mrs. Kronheiser was grading this, the only thing I'd be looking for is something like this, or I suppose like this. But what I would count wrong is anything that was not equal. So I just need to clearly able to see the 2 equal parts and making them as equal as possible. All right, here's the hot problem. Jenna is eating half of an orange. Samantha is eating the other half of the same orange. So they already separated in half, and they're eating the 2 halves. Jenna says she has less than Samantha. Can she be right? Well, I have a little yes or no, and I have 2 lines for us to explain why or why not. So let's think back again. Okay, they have an orange. If you think about it, I'll get rid of our wrong problem here. If you think about this, an orange, you could say it's a circle. Okay. So if the girls did it right, and they should, because a half is how many? 2 equal parts. It has to be equal. So this is Jenna's half, and this is Samantha's half. Can Jenna have less than Samantha? The answer is no. They can't, because halves are two equal parts. And I'm going to circle this because the word equal literally means the exact same. So for them to have split the orange in half, those halves have had to have been equal. So that has been your half and 1/2 lesson. Check back on the videos for our other first grade team members doing some awesome math lessons. All right, thank you so much.